Welcome to Dark Docent. My name is Jake. Join me as I guide my friend James down the paranormal rabbit hole, attempting to prove the authenticity of a new case each week. Today's case, the Bermuda Triangle.
I can hear it echoing in the guitar.
Isn't that nice? It's really nice when Cricket puts his head at the guitar and then barks at me. And then he fights it because he doesn't realize that it's him barking at himself. Fucking dog. Alright.
It's not a shining beacon of intelligence. No offense to your dog.
No, you're allowed to say that. I say it all the time. He's a fucking idiot.
I like the way his eyes point in different directions.
When he's really tired, they go further. It's like he's actively trying to keep them centered.
Which eye is the lazy eye? Is it both of them?
Both of them are lazy. They both go... How you doing today, James?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just get everything frantically together for this case, because we got a big one today, buddy.
A big one?
Yes. This is a paranormal classic, if you will.
Ooh, a classic one. Is it Bigfoot?
No.
Is it Mothman?
No.
Oh, I'm out of ideas.
All right, that's the only two. All right.
Only two I can... Oh, there's also Goatman.
There's Goatman.
There's Dogman.
Dogman. Several Dogmen.
There's lots of Monkey Men, but we already said no to Bigfoot.
To one of the Bigfoot cases.
Is there a Snake Man?
That's actually a good question. I don't know if there's a Snake Man. I know there's a Lizard Man.
Lots of Lizard Men.
Yeah. There's amphibious men and there's
You ever
lizard
seen
men.
Mark Zuckerberg try to drink water?
I don't think I've paid much attention to it. What does he do?
It's awkward. It's almost as awkward as I am.
So are you a lizard man?
I don't think so.
I don't think we have to do a case on that. I think we got to confirm now. You just listed one lizard man and one possible lizard man, and you're sitting right in front of me. So we got two almost confirmed lizard men.
1 to 5. How would you rate the lizard men?
Lizard men?
Yeah. Now that we've gone over two potential ones.
7.
7?
Yeah.
I'm glad I got you over that hump.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. No. Well, James, I've got a story for you. For everyone at home that wants to follow along, I post all of the case photos on Instagram and Facebook, so you can check out everything that I am showing James here today.
As well as all the cases we had already done, all those photos are also on Facebook and Instagram if you wanted to go back and see what we were talking about.
December 5th, 1945. We're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We're at an airbase doing training exercises for like bombing runs. There's been several flights that have gone out from Fort Lauderdale, gone to a target out into the Atlantic Ocean. There's like a shipwreck. They were going to bomb that, turn back up northwest, and head back to Fort Lauderdale. A pretty normal training mission, and there's been several gone out today. Nothing really has gone on. Nothing was expected to go on. And then there was the last flight of the day. 5 TBF Avenger torpedo bombers went up into the air. These torpedo bombers were led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor. He is an experienced pilot with 2 tours in World War II and 2,000 hours of flying. However, the other pilots in the other planes only had 20 to 30. So he's kind of like the head, kind of take him to each location, show him what to do. It was good weather. Sunny out. There was a little bit of cloud, but that's normal. They headed off to their target. They took off around 2 o'clock in the afternoon to a place called Hens and Chickens Shoals. So they were going 90 degrees, 73 miles out to sea. And then once they made the bombing run, they were to turn 346 degrees north for about 73 miles. And then they were going to turn 241 degrees southwest for 120 miles back to Fort Lauderdale. The flight time was supposed to be about 2 to 3 hours. They arrived at the bombing area, and they launched their bombs. Everything's going off without a hitch. Everything's going fine. Until about 3:40 p.m. There's a radio in to the tower back at Fort Lauderdale. And the pilots seem to be having trouble recognizing where they are. Lieutenant Cox was the man who was manning the radio at the time, and he hears the training flight, called Flight 19, desperately asking position check. Here's a quote from Lieutenant Taylor.
Both my compasses are out, and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I am over land, but it's broken. I am sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down. And I don't know how to get back to Fort Lauderdale.
When he was saying that, he sounded a bit anxious. And the thing is that the people in the tower were like, this makes no sense. Florida Keys was not near here where he would have been flying. It's actually hundreds of miles from Hens and Chicken Shoals. They were confused as all hell as to what they're thinking right now. They also thought it was strange that a man with this much experience got lost on a training mission. He was advised to fly towards the setting sun. Just fly west, you'll get you back to land. However, Taylor was convinced that he was in the Gulf of Mexico and decided to go northeast. This decision caused instant anxiety to come over the other pilots. Other pilots started radioing Lieutenant Taylor, and it was coming over the channels back to Fort Lauderdale.
Damn it, if we would just fly west, we would get home.
But people started arguing and getting mad at each other which direction they should go. The direction was changed multiple times. They kept changing where they should have been, and they're completely disoriented. The radio also began breaking up when they weren't supposed to be that far away. So if they were breaking up, they most likely were flying some direction that was nowhere near Fort Lauderdale. And then they got one last message coming over the comms. It was from Lieutenant Taylor. He was talking to the rest of the group.
All planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the planes drop below 10 gallons, we all go down together.
After stating that, it began breaking up, and nothing came over the radio other than an eerie buzz. They instantly set out 2 PBM Mariners to find where these planes could have possibly crash landed in the ocean. To give you an idea of what the PBM Mariners look like, they're like big seaplanes, the big reconnaissance planes from World War II.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. However, out of the 2 PBM Mariners, only one came back. The other one disappeared as well. The next day, over 300 boats and aircraft searched the 300,000 square miles over 2 weeks, and not a single thing was found. No debris, no life jackets, no oil slick, which is extremely common in plane crashes. Nothing. They couldn't find a single thing. And that's not the only strange disappearance in this area. Strange disappearances in this area have gone back hundreds of years. But this is when it first started to get noticed. And they coined it a term that now lives forever in infamy.
I think I know what it is.
You might. James, have you heard of the
Bermuda Triangle.
You fucking got it! Yes, brother!
Boy, have I. It was one of the scariest things as a child, right next to quicksand.
I was about to say, right next to quicksand. You thought these things are both, like, bigger problems when you were a kid. Like, why is nobody doing anything about this? What do you think about the Bermuda Triangle? I've never talked to you about the Bermuda Triangle.
You haven't, and I don't think I've really ever talked about it with anyone.
It seems like a bigger thing when you're in elementary school.
Well, yeah, it was a spooky, cool, mysterious thing. Planes fly in, ships sail in, and then I don't really know what happens from there, and neither does anyone else.
No, but there's a lot of theories, and we're going to get into all of those today. Do you have any thoughts about the Bermuda Triangle? Do you have any belief or any theories as to what you think might be happening in this strange body of water?
Well, I haven't heard of any Bermuda Triangle news in the last, 15 plus years.
Mhm.
I wonder if they already solved it. They fixed whatever was going on, or maybe if there was ever even anything going on. But it sounds like there was.
The last, at least mysterious disappearance that's related to the Bermuda Triangle was about 10 years ago, in 2015. A few boys got lost in a boat offshore. Just like the other disappearances, just disappeared out of trace, no idea where they went. But there's a lot of things that go into the Bermuda Triangle. There's a lot of strange things that happen in the Bermuda Triangle. And reports of strange happenings here go back hundreds of years. Do you know where the first reports of the Bermuda Triangle came from?
No, I don't. Spain?
Actually, kind of close.
Portugal?
Kind of close. Back in 1492, a man named Christopher Columbus was the first man to report something happening strange in the Bermuda Triangle. He reported a lot of things strange, and he did a lot of bad shit. But
That guy lived a crazy life.
that's the that's the most subtle way to put it, I guess. But Christopher Columbus was one of the first people to report something strange happening in this body of water. Back in 1492, during his famous voyage to the Americas, Christopher Columbus claimed to see strange lights in the sky. He also claimed that his compasses went erratic, going all over the place, spinning in weird directions, not being correctly read. He also talks about in one of his journals a ball of flame crashing into the sea near his boats. He also reported that this area is known for heavy storms and choppy seas that weren't a part of the rest of the journey. These really stood out as more extraordinary storms in this area. He also talked about strange parts where the ocean would almost hold the boat still. Like a strange amount of weeds would come up and grab the boat and keep it where it was, and they'd have to break it off to keep it going. And we'll get back to why that's important. Now, as stated, Bermuda Triangle, it has a lot of missing people. And it's over a big area.
There is a lot of open ocean there.
There is a lot of open ocean. And to give you an exact measurement of how big the triangle is, it's an estimated 500,000 square miles, but it could be as big as 1 million square miles. And I actually have an image of the map of the Bermuda Triangle for you.
I hope it's a triangle.
So here's the Bermuda Triangle. Its points of the triangle are mapped from Florida to Puerto Rico to Bermuda, in that strange formation there. That's where a lot of the boats and the planes go missing.
I see the equator runs right through it.
It does. The equator does run right through it. And between 1946 and 1991, there's been over 100 missing planes and ships in the Bermuda Triangle. But overall, there's been an estimated 8,000 lives and hundreds of ships and airplanes. Now, ships, easily in the thousands. Planes, more in the hundreds. But of those ships, 1,600 of those ships were ghost ships, where the entire crew was missing, but the ship still stood on the water. There's been some mysterious cases where the ship looked like nothing happened to it, but the crew was just gone, and the crew's never been seen again. The earliest one, at least that we associate with the triangle, is the USS Pickering in year 1800. 91 souls lost, and at the same time, the USS Insurgent was lost. 340 souls went missing with no sign of them ever reappearing, and that is the largest naval casualty outside of combat in history.
To this day?
To this day.
Was that a ghost ship, or did the whole thing just disappear?
Disappeared, never found again. Not a piece of anything has been found. And that's the weird part. And I know that there's a lot of people like, oh, the ocean's big, you won't find stuff. But the thing is that when boats sink, you normally find life jackets. There's been ships that have sank. You'll find life rafts, you'll find lifeboats, things do float. You'll find oil slicks if they're hit by something. That's how usually people find stuff. And also there's currents and they wash things on shore. In the triangle, things just go missing and never appear again. In 1814, the USS Wasp was another ship that went missing, another battleship. 140 souls lost, nothing ever found of it. 1824, USS Wildcat. It was going from Cuba to Tompkins Island, lost 31 souls. Several ships have gone missing. This is where we get to our first ghost ship. November 6th, 1840, the Rosalie. It was a French ship bound for Havana, but the ship was found abandoned, and everything was intact. The sails were set. There was no damage. The cargo was intact. Even live animals were still on the boat. Pet monkeys and stuff that they had were still there. Some were famished, but were still alive. Not a single soul on board, and it seemed to be recently deserted. No life rafts were found, no people were found, no life jackets were found, nothing.
So they got off the boat.
They got off the boat, no one's ever found them. But they don't know why. No one really knows why they got off the boat. They did find, I think, in the lower parts of the boat, there was a little bit of water, but it wasn't sinking. It was just maybe a few inches of water at the bottom blowing up a bit and kind of stayed put.
And no one left any notes or anything on these ships?
Nothing. So that adds to the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. There have been other boats that have been found washed ashore with the crew gone. The Carol A. Deering was a 255-foot 5-mast schooner that was found abandoned. It was hard aground, but all the sails were set, and again, no people. But I find that this one was likely a mutiny. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that led to the belief that there was a mutiny. So this is a lot of ships that have been going missing, been found without crews, and these are just the most famous ones. What do you think about this many ships being left abandoned or going missing?
One or two or 1,000? I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for each and every one of these.
And you know what? It is the 1800s at this point. I would agree with that statement. There's a lot of boats going missing at this time. These were sailboats, and these are waters with a bit of a dangerous rep.
You know what we could do to really get to the bottom of this as a society?
What's that?
Hire a responsible, well-known submarine company to look for them, such as Ocean Gate Submarines. Send them down there and maybe find some evidence of what's going on.
Well, they just tried to find that Titanic, and that didn't go very well.
Oh, that's right. That was them, wasn't it? Shoot. Maybe not them then.
They got the knockoff controller. That was the problem.
That was the problem.
They should have spent the full money and got the actual Xbox or PlayStation 5 controller. I think that's where they went wrong.
They are pretty expensive, let's be real.
Yeah, I know, but you spent how much money on the sub? Well, maybe they spent that much money on the sub. They didn't have enough money for a proper controller. Amazon was their only option.
Where did the submarine thing happen? Was that in the Bermuda Triangle?
No.
Oh.
That was in, that was off the
North Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, kind of near...
Off the coast of Newfoundland.
Yeah, that's where the Titanic sank.
Isabiza built not a very good submarine.
So I don't think we can send the Titan sub down there.
No.
But what you brought up with the Titanic and the Bermuda Triangle, there's a lot of stuff people say about the Bermuda Triangle. Like, literally, like, anyone going missing, they would be like, oh, Bermuda Triangle. I've literally seen podcasts where a guy brought up the triangle and his co-host instantly said, oh yeah, Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was flying on the other side of the world when she went missing.
Yeah, and she was eaten by crabs, not triangles.
Exactly. So there's a lot of misinformation on who went missing and how in the Bermuda Triangle.
Are there any big names we've heard of that have gone missing there? Or I imagine you're getting there.
I'll get there. Mostly like big naval ships that were pretty famous.
Yeah.
Like when we talked about Flight 19, those were TBF Avenger torpedo bombers. They were called Iron Birds. They were known for their toughness. They weren't fancy, but their grit and the way they could get through being scathed really well, that's kind of like what their rep was.
Mm-hmm.
Just like stuff like that where people are like, it's weird that...
And it wasn't just one guy, it was a whole squad.
14 souls were lost in that squad.
Yeah.
And then another 13 were lost on the PBM Mariner that went out to look for them. Now, we'll get back to that, but there was another military tragedy that happened earlier than Flight 19. This is probably the second most famous incident in the Bermuda Triangle. Have you ever heard of the USS Cyclops?
I don't think so.
The USS Cyclops was a fuel ship. It was 542 feet long, and it held 19,360 tons fully loaded. It was critical for World War I transportation for goods and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was famous for being one of the biggest ships in the fleet. In 1918, the USS Cyclops went missing. It was in Rio de Janeiro on February 16th, 1918. And it had 10,800 tons of manganese ore heading to Baltimore. As a scrap man, I can tell you manganese ore is a very heavy steel product. They made a brief stop in Salvador to pick up the manganese ore, and they departed February 22nd, 1918. On March 3rd, they stopped in Barbados. No one really knows why. I think they were just trying to fuel up, get some more stuff. I think they lost more on the trek than they thought. They were heading up from Barbados to Baltimore. They left. The last words of the ship, so the last message that went out internationally, was weather fair, all well. And that's the last we've ever heard of the USS Cyclops. All 306 men are missing, never been found. And there's been nothing to hint where it could have been.
306, you said?
Yes. This was seen as the largest naval casualty outside of combat in the United States. They didn't count the one prior I talked about. That is actually the one, but this was the more famous one, and this is actually the one that people claim it is, but it's the second most.
Right.
So the number 1 and number 2 are both related to the Bermuda Triangle. The weird part about this, again, lots of people are like, it's a ship, it could just go missing. But there was no distress calls, no SOS. Nothing. Normally there would be an SOS call. Even ships that get hit by U-boats, they still have time to put out an SOS call. The main theory around this for a long time was it was a U-boat that took them out, and it fueled the anger against the Germans in World War I. And also since we found out that Germany and Mexico were planning to attack the United States together after World War I. So a lot of people kind of thought that might have been part of it. However, after the war, we can find out, hey, were there U-boats in this area? Were there this in this area? You can find out a lot of stuff. There was no U-boat activity in that area or any attacks at the time, according to German records. So there was no U-boat attack. There was no seismic activity in the area, not even a hurricane, because it wasn't hurricane season. So they don't know why it went missing. The U.S. Navy calls the loss of life, quote unquote, baffling. The U.S. Navy doesn't even know what happened to it, and to this day they have no theories.
I think that's a good word for it.
That's what they said. That's the quote in the report. Is baffling. I have a picture of the USS Cyclops for you. Here's a picture of the USS Cyclops.
That definitely does look like a cargo type ship.
Mainly for fuel and coal,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, to this day, no one knows what happened to the USS Cyclops. There is some theories of mutiny. The captain was not well liked on this boat. He was actually known to be kind of a ruthless dictator, the way he ran his boat. And some say maybe there was a mutiny and they threw him overboard.
That still leaves over 300 people that didn't get thrown overboard.
Yeah, so 305 people went missing on this ship that was supposed to be damn near invincible. I don't think so. I mean, there could have been, but it still doesn't explain why they're missing.
This ship never showed up again either, did it?
Not a piece has been found.
Right.
In 1941, the USS Proteus was lost with all 58 persons on board in heavy seas. It departed St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands with a cargo of bauxite on the 23rd of November. The following month, her sister ship, the USS Nereus, was lost with all 61 persons on board. This one also departed from St. Thomas with a cargo of bauxite, and it was also going to the same location. 2 boats, same route, within a month went missing. The weirdest part is they were both sister ships of the USS Cyclops.
Sorry, I have another theory coming to mind.
Okay.
We're not terribly far away from the Caribbean.
Yep.
And as some of the listeners may know, there were pirates of the Caribbean. Do you think any of these could be pirate related? Like, take the vessels, axe the crew, get the cargo, you're laughing.
This is a theory, but it's been proven unlikely in the mysterious circumstances.
Proven unlikely. Those 2 words don't go together.
Proven unlikely?
It's
Yeah.
either
It's like
unlikely is an uncertain term, proven is a certain term.
yeah, so it's certainly most likely unlikely. The reason that it's unlikely, here, I'll help with you. It's unlikely is because when pirates wreck ships, they leave evidence of wrecked ships. There's blood on the ship, there's bullet holes,
If they leave the ship.
and there has been 1,600 ghost ships, and none of them had that. But no, there has been some theories on pirates.
Get the bauxite for the captain.
Because bauxite is what we need right now. That's the weird part, is that there are shipwrecks that we can find from hundreds of years ago under the water. But we can't find these ones. And even shipwrecks that go missing, like that are mysteries but we can't find, they're not as mysterious because we still find bits of the boat. We still find oil slicks. We still find life jackets. There's even cases where we find like life rafts with skeletons in the life raft. But with the ones in the triangle, we don't even find anything. They just blip out of existence. I don't know what to make of the Cyclops. What do you think of the USS Cyclops?
It sounds like just another boat that went missing in the Bermuda Triangle. Have there been any submarines that have gone down and looked on the ocean floor around there?
There has been submarines and divers,
Yeah.
too, going down to Bermuda. Lots of people go down to the Bermuda Triangle. It's a very heavy traffic area. A lot of people bring up, oh, Bermuda Triangle. Like a lot of people, like thousands of people fly over it and swim in it and boat in it every day. And they all don't go missing. Actually, if you look at the Bermuda Triangle per capita, there's nothing strange about it. There's actually the same amount of casualties in other areas of the world that there are here.
Yeah.
The weird part is the amount that you can't find after.
Yeah, and it's not like stuff like this is just hearsay or alleged. It's military vessels that have disappeared, and that's presumably not just some made-up thing.
Mhm.
And I would imagine you looked into to see if they did find any bits and pieces floating around.
I've actually taken out any of the ones that had any piece found,
Right.
because I want to only focus on the ones that are the most mysterious. And all the ones that I've looked at, I've chalked up a few to mutinies, sunken ships, and stuff where they find pieces. The weird parts for me are the ones that disappear without any trace whatsoever.
Well, yeah, and even you said with some of the ghost ships that have all the life rafts missing.
Yeah.
But then those are all missing, and obviously so are the people in them.
Never found again. As we stated, Flight 19 is when people really started to take notice that something weird was happening in this area of water. Actually, after Flight 19, more planes went missing. There are military cruiser planes that went missing with over 50 people on board, not a trace ever. And I'm talking like C-47 planes. More we got. We got a fucking lot.
Got pages and pages.
I do. I got so many fucking notes on this. I gotta tell you a story. So I was in here, and Frank came to see how I was doing. Just wanted to hang out, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I had like maps on the board of all the missing boats and planes on the TV in my room, like this big screen. And on this table, it was covered in papers and pictures and shit. And I'm just writing shit down and listening to a bunch of different radio shows. And Frank just goes, "Hey, getting really into us, huh?" I'm like, I feel like Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
There's no going back now, Frank.
I was like, you don't get it. I gotta prove this dick something's real. In 1964, writer Vincent Gaddis was writing an article about it in Argo Sci magazine. Now, this is a pulp fiction magazine. To write spooky stories to sell papers and stuff. Lots of people say this is like, oh no, he was writing a lot of stories about Bermuda Triangle, and lots of them are fake. Don't listen to them. But he did coin the term the Bermuda Triangle, or the Devil's Triangle, and that stuck. So ever since 1964, people have called this area the Bermuda Triangle. But the disappearances continued, and it wasn't all fiction. December 22nd, 1967, Miami, Florida. Hotel owner Dan Burke and priest Patrick Horgan are on Burke's yacht, named the Witchcraft. They wanted to go offshore about a mile and get a good look at all the Christmas lights in Miami. So they did that. They hopped onto the boat. It's later in the evening. Went 1 mile off coast. They're looking at the lights, and then all of a sudden, the Coast Guard receives a distress call. It's from Burke. He says his propeller got stuck and he needs a tow. Coast Guard said, okay, no problem. Burke gave them his coordinates and everything. So they said, hey, in 20 minutes, fire a flare, we'll pinpoint your position. He said, okay, yeah, no problem. And apparently Burke was like, not stressed at all. Like he was like, no, I just fucking hit something, just need some help. And they were like, yeah, it was like no big deal. And he was only a mile off the coast. When the Coast Guard went out there, no flare was fired. They went out to his coordinates and nothing was there. The Witchcraft wasn't there. It disappeared along with Burke and Priest Horgan, and they've never been seen again. Now, this seems a little less weird on the face of it, because it's a yacht, smaller boat, compared to the other ones anyway. But the thing is that the Witchcraft was a very state-of-the-art boat, and it had a flotation device in its hull at the very front. So if it sank, it would still bow up, and it would stay on the surface. So there was no way that this thing would sink full.
Right.
It would still float up. And also, it was only a mile off the shore. Nothing has ever been found of the Witchcraft or either of these men. And that's really weird to me, because this thing was not meant to sink. This was like an unsinkable ship, and if they were out further in the sea, I would say, okay, maybe they got hit by a giant wave or something, or who knows. But only a mile off the coast. They went missing.
Does the triangle even start a mile off of Florida?
The thing about the triangle is it's actually more of a circle.
Yeah.
The triangle term is only because of Gaddis, Vincent Gaddis, and the way he wrote about it. The term was just really spooky. The Bermuda Triangle, or the Devil's Triangle. It was just seen as like a spooky thing, and it stuck, but it's more of like a circular area.
And looking at a map here, it does kind of, based off the shape of the bottom of North America to the top of South America, it does kind of look, I mean, it's labeled the Sargasso Sea, and it is pretty circular.
It is, and we'll get back to the Sargasso Sea, because that is actually an important part about this. Do you have any theories on what could have happened to these boats and these planes thus far?
Any theories?
Yeah, like if you're popping things in your mind, I know you're more skeptical brain than I am. I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's fucking aliens, it's something weird. But I want to hear what you have to think about this.
Well, a recurring theme seems to be that like navigation systems go down. I wonder if that could be some sort of electromagnetism thing going on. Just taking them out, or, you know, disrupting them.
Yeah.
As for how the boats are just disappearing, kind of at a loss for ideas. Like, unless there was like a ton of air bubbles coming up from the sea floor that just basically takes the water out from underneath them, then I don't really know. Yeah. And
it's strange.
You think that something would be findable with these too.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you know roughly the area they went down in. Like, I'm kind of at a loss for theories, really.
Well, what if I told you we may have an explanation? And it's weirder than we thought.
Is it portals?
It may be portals. Have you ever heard of the Bruce Gernon journey?
I have not.
This is probably the most famous airplane story other than Flight 19. And the reason it is because a man survived being taken by the Bermuda Triangle. Bruce Gernon was a pilot in the Florida Bahamas area. Bruce Gernon had over 600 hours of flight time, which is a lot for like an amateur pilot. And he's done this route he was about to go on several times. He was going from the Bahamas to Miami. It was a 90-minute flight, and he was with his dad and his dad's business partner. They take off from the Bahamas, and almost instantaneously, about 1,000 feet in the air, a strange cloud started to form. He said it was very circular, and he kind of started to try to go around it, but it's almost like the cloud would grow, and it would grow to the right or grow to the left, and he couldn't get around it. So his only option is go through it. To him, no big deal, planes go through clouds. So he decides to go through it. He goes through this cloud, and it goes on for quite a while. He gets out of it, and approaches 11,500 feet of altitude, and he sees another bigger cloud that looked the exact same as the one before. Again, it grew side to side, it kept getting larger, and it wouldn't let him through, so he had to just go through it. But once he did, it got pitch black inside the cloud. This was not a storm cloud, it was like a white cloud. He went inside the cloud, it got pitch black. All around him there was white flashes. When he was asked about if it was lightning, he said, no, this is not lightning. Like, it's like flashing lights, and it would illuminate the cab like all around him. They were trying to get through these white clouds and stuff like that, and then it kind of broke from the darkness, and they were in like a cylindrical tunnel. It seemed to be about a mile wide, and they were just flying through. The cloud was almost making like a spinning vortex shape. He flew through this vortex for about 30 minutes until turning up and seeing a light. He decided, I'm going to go towards the light. Engines full thrust, going towards the light. As he does this, the cloud begins closing on him. He doesn't explain this at all. It's almost like the cloud knows what he's trying to do, and it's spinning more like a vortex now.
Could he be in the center of a hurricane? It does get pretty stormy out there.
That's the thing, is that it's not stormy. It's like white flashes and pitch black in a strange cloud. Like, this isn't like a hurricane. It's weird. It's different. It's not like a storm. And no one here so far has reported a storm on land. Other planes are out there right now. And this is the middle of the day. So he's trying to get out of this vortex. The walls are collapsing. His instruments are all functioning. All of his instruments, his compasses, everything on it is just beeping like mad. He has no idea where he is. He's going. And he finally breaks free. He says the cloud is almost clinging to his wings. He's looking off and it's like holding on, like it's like dragging off, like it's a little more solid than it should be. But he escaped. He got out. So he's like, okay, I need to know where I am. So he radios ground control and he says his location, says his flight number, everything like that. You're not on our radar. They can't find him. And then all of a sudden, he's there. They found him. Oh yeah, no, you are right there. We picked you up all of a sudden. It's like you almost appeared. And they said you were over Miami. And he was like, that's not right. Miami is a 90-minute flight. He's only been flying for 47 minutes. But lo and behold, he's over Miami. Somehow, 45 minutes of his flight got taken off. He doesn't know how it happened, but his flight from the Bahamas to Miami only took 47 minutes. He wrote a book about this too, because he was perplexed. Somehow, he took a 400-kilometer trek in half the time in a plane that only goes 290 kilometers per hour max. Do the math, does not add up. And the weirdest part about all this is his fuel wasn't down. It hadn't gone through the amount of fuel it would have gone through getting to that area. It's almost like he skipped time. He coined this electric fog because of these strange cloud shapes with the lightning and the white flashes.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about it. When he released this book, he just wanted to like shed his experience because he experienced something weird. I'm just trying to figure it out. But once he released the book, it got really popular. And several other pilots came forward saying they experienced the exact same thing flying through the Bermuda Triangle. And no one has any explanation as to what it is or how it happens.
Did anyone verify the fuel thing at the very least with him?
His dad and his business partner that were in the plane with him. All of this, he had 2 people with him that verified all of this. Weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
Now this one,
It's a weird one, right?
it is a weird one,
We
but
have actual radar and shit.
it's a weird one. There's a few things going through my head.
Yep.
Both like A, weird, B,
Mhm.
you know, a couple skeptical things just because I can't help it, right?
Lay it on me. I want to hear it.
You always have to be skeptical of anyone who writes a book from an experience that only they and a handful of people can verify.
Yep.
Because there can be a lot of money in books.
There can be.
And the only people who verify it are a family member
Mhm.
and a business partner
Of his dad.
of his dad.
Yep.
Who is both of who were in the plane.
Both were in the plane.
So there are doubts in my mind for this one.
Mhm.
Just because of the,
How do you
there is a money aspect to it.
There is, and there's always a weird part when there's a money aspect to it.
Yeah. Anyone who goes on to write a book about something, you have to be kind of wary of, like, were there ulterior motives to the story.
It was 20 years after the story happened. Like, this came out in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the part. Is like, it did come out a lot later. Other pilots have come forward talking about that this is something that they've experienced. That's the weird part, is that pilots unattached to Bruce Gernon have come out and said that this is something that's happened.
I'm always skeptical of people, too, that always come out of the woodworks after someone else does all the heavy lifting.
Mhm.
Like, whether it be one thing or another. You always, there's always someone who wants to hop on the bandwagon, so to speak.
Yeah.
And no matter what it is, whether, not just for paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
There's always people, like I say, hopping on the bandwagon
Mhm.
when someone else has put their neck out there or think it could be an easy to join along thing. So you just got to ask the questions,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
However, if it was real, it both does and doesn't sound like a storm. Black clouds, vortex, flashes, like...
But it wasn't
It is-
black on the outside. That's the weird part. It's not like you're saying it turned black when he went inside. It's like it was a white cloud, and once he entered it, it was pitch black inside the cloud.
Right.
It was like turned nighttime, but it was the middle of the day.
Yeah. But it's still, like, from the inside, it does sound stormy. And jet streams. I don't think they just double your speed going through the air, but they can speed up travel if you're going, with the wind, so to speak.
They can, and that is actually something that's been brought up, is like, what if this was a storm that just took him along?
Yeah, that's from the inside,
Mhm.
and from his account, that is exactly what it sounds like.
But not like this fast. I've never heard of anything this fast.
I've never heard of a jet stream going that fast either, but that's
No.
just... Those are the first things
And
that pop into my mind, is all of these questions.
This wasn't a jet either. This was a prop plane.
Yeah. Well, a jet stream is not for jets. A jet
Okay.
stream is just what they call the...
Okay. I thought you were talking about the actual
No.
jet part.
No, I mean, just like... I think that's just what they call, like, the wind tunnels, I guess, in the air. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not...
Chemtrails, you mean?
We'll get there one day. I'm not a pilot. I don't know any aeronautical terms. I don't even think that's a real word. I just made
Actually,
that
you
up.
did. You nailed it. That's
Is
right.
it?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, how about that? Maybe I am.
Maybe you are. Maybe you know more than you think.
Maybe I know exactly what I'm talking about. But those are the things that come to mind when you tell me this story.
I understand. I'm also weary when money gets involved. This has been like investigated by a lot of people. A lot of people do say they come forward and say that the same thing happened to them. A lot of people have come out and said it. It's just a weird story. So as I said earlier, there's a lot of theories as to what could be in the Bermuda Triangle that is causing all of the disappearances. And again, people bring up the argument that it's no different than anywhere else in the world per capita. The weird part is just the disappearing without any evidence. First off, I want to go back to Flight 19. Those 5 planes did disappear. But the PBM Mariners that went searching for them, that one disappeared. But also, those planes, unlike the Avengers, had a bad rep. They were called flying fuel tanks because a common problem in them is that their fuel tank would leak a little bit and then it would heat up and catch something and they would just ignite in midair and just explode and kill everyone on board. And that was a rep. Like, that was like, people were like, didn't want to fly on these things.
Yeah, this sounds reasonable enough.
Yeah. And there was reports of one of the ships that was going for a search, or like one of the ships that was out there at the time the PBMs went out, that they did report a light in the sky, like a flash. And there was reports of a possible oil slick found, but the actual plane was never found. And honestly, you wouldn't find much because it literally just exploded in the air and all the pieces went everywhere.
Yeah.
But at least in that one, there was reports of a flash and at least an oil slick, if you can't find anything else.
I mean, for a little plane wreck, that's about all you can hope for.
That is a PBM Mariner.
Oh, it's not tiny.
No, it's like a big reconnaissance float plane.
Yeah.
They called them flying fuel tanks because of the rate that they would just randomly explode. Some of the theories. The first theory was a rogue wave. Have you ever heard of a rogue wave?
I have heard of rogue waves. They are very interesting.
They are. They just don't follow the current or
It's
nothing.
just like a singular massive wave just comes out of nowhere,
Yes.
wrecks your shit, and
Yes.
is gone.
Yes. Did you know that rogue waves were largely seen as myth?
I believe it.
We got actually the first evidence of a rogue wave on the 1st of January 1995. It was on a gas platform called the North Sea Dropner. And during this storm, a rogue wave came out of nowhere. And no one had time to really prepare for it. And this wave reached 100 feet tall. It's the first time we could actually measure a wave and how big it was. That was our first recorded rogue wave. The thing is that the conditions of the Bermuda Triangle could give us rogue waves. So, that's one down-to-earth possibility for rogue waves. And rogue waves are actually worse for bigger vessels. And that's because the wave kind of rolls with the water and kind of comes up. And instead of going over boats and boats going with it, boats can kind of float on top of it. So if it catches a large boat and it goes up to the peak of the wave, that's a lot of weight on a very small amount of water.
And very high up.
And the gravity can cause the boat to split in half, especially if it's loaded, like something like the Cyclops.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're high center on the wave.
Yes. And that would explain why bigger ships are the ones that normally go missing in the Bermuda Triangle. But it doesn't explain the planes. There are more explanations for weather, though. This area in Bermuda and the surrounding area is known as Hurricane Alley. It is the most prominent place for hurricanes in the world.
Yep.
They come from the south, the east, and the west.
Mm-hmm.
And basically in that area is where majority of hurricanes form. So it wouldn't be far to think that it was hurricanes causing issues. But the thing is that sometimes there's planes and boats out there when there is no recorded hurricane. Maybe for older boats being missing, that could make sense. But now we got so much stuff tracking everything. We would be able to see the hurricane coming in or being mapped out and stuff like that. We'd have evidence as to it happening. So it doesn't explain everything. Another theory, navigational errors. Just someone getting confused. It could happen, human error. But doesn't explain everything. Again, here's where it gets a little more interesting. Methane gas. In the bottom of the Gulf and around Bermuda, there's lots of large deposits of methane gas. And it crystallizes near the bottom. And if one of those come up to the surface and burst, it could create a large amount of methane. Which, I don't know, have you ever seen methane react with anything floating on the water?
No.
It basically just it falls off a cliff. It's like the water isn't even there.
So it's kind of like what I alluded to earlier when I said if there was large amounts of, I said air, but I guess any gas underneath the surface. Yes,
but methane gas would be the one that makes it fall. And I don't know if you remember a few years ago, there was around Germany, their natural gas lines got blown up by something. They didn't know what. But the threat was if anyone goes over that part of the ocean,
they're just going to
fall like they're falling in real time. So that's another explanation as to maybe why the boats could be sinking out of nowhere. But it's possible if something was large enough, like if there was a large enough bubble that it could blow up and go up into the air and possibly get a plane, it still doesn't explain that part. But it does give another good explanation for the boats.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another weird thing about the Bermuda Triangle is there's lots of explanations and theories, but they don't necessarily fit everything. Another theory is magnetic anomalies. Now, a large part of the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is the compasses going out of whack and the instruments going out of whack. And lots of those are based on magnetic north. But the only way that these things would interact unnaturally is that there's another magnet in the area. And as far as we know, there isn't. It doesn't make much sense. This is the biggest mystery that we have with the Bermuda Triangle. You gonna say something?
I was just going to say, being in and around the equator, you're as far away from the poles as you could be.
Yes. So magnetic anomalies being a theory or something that helps this theory is most places that have been built by volcanic activity, other islands, it's usually about 20 miles down is where the lava is, where the magma is. It's usually how deep it goes.
Beneath the surface.
Beneath the surface of the earth.
Of the earth, not the water. Okay.
No, but beneath the surface of the earth.
Yes.
So 20 miles beneath the surface of the earth. That's normally where the volcanic activity comes from. However, Bermuda's unique. Bermuda is 400 miles beneath the Earth's surface. The reason that's unique is because it brings up unique ores that we don't normally see, including one called magnetite, which is basically the entire foundation of Bermuda, is this strange mineral called magnetite known for its magnetic properties. And some say maybe this is a reason as to why the compasses get screwed up. And maybe the foundation of magnetite goes further than Bermuda. It's not proven, but it is a theory.
Yeah.
And I kind of like this one. I honestly think it's pretty interesting. Not many people actually know about this one. This is actually kind of a new...
It's new to me, but it makes sense so far.
It does, and I really like this one. But again, explains some things, not everything.
Well, there seems to be enough things where one thing doesn't have to explain everything, because there's enough things where each little thing could be explained by something.
This is true.
Other than the planes.
Another thing that people theorize, we're going to get a little nutty here now, not far from the Bermuda Triangle, is where the comet that killed the dinosaurs landed. And
Allegedly.
Allegedly. We have found a crater there in the Gulf of Mexico that we believe is the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. And some theorize that what if that comet hitting Earth had affected our magnetic properties of Earth a little bit, just in that area? Or possibly it has some materials on it that possibly affect the magnetic field around the area, causing compasses to go nutty. Theory's fun, but it is a little west of the Bermuda Triangle.
I feel like that's something that could be easily proven too in today's day and age.
Yeah. So not much to that one, but it's fun, and I wanted to throw it in.
It is fun.
Another thing we brought up before, the Sargasso Sea. Now, Sargasso Sea, it's known for its large kelp beds. Basically, the whole sea is like a floating kelp bed. And sometimes these kelp beds can grip around boats and harden. At first, it doesn't seem that dangerous. Maybe break through it. But these things can also get into boats and rot away the wood if it was like an old type ship. And also, when the kelp begins to dissolve and rot on the surface, it lets off a toxic gas that could cause the people to hallucinate and possibly jump overboard like there's a bigger problem and get paranoia and leave the ship.
Is this something that we know for sure, that it off gas is hallucinogenic?
This is yes. Well, they don't know if it's hallucinogenic or anything, but it does cause people to go nuts, and it is poisonous. It will harm you and kill you.
Okay.
Which could also explain why some people just go missing off ships. This is another theory, because Columbus did talk about this, his ship being grasped by the sea. And this was in the Sargasso Sea, which is known for these large kelp beds. So that's another theory as to why the ships go missing in this area. And that Sargasso Sea takes up the majority of the Bermuda Triangle.
At least back in the day.
Yeah. And it takes up the majority of the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm. Like I say, basically the Sargasso Sea was that big sphere shape that you said is more akin to what the Bermuda Triangle actually is.
Yeah.
So 100%. That fully fits into there.
Yeah. Okay, now we're getting into the real stuff. What if it's Atlantis? Hear me out. There have been pyramid-like structures found in the area of the Bermuda Triangle on the seafloor. And there's large old structures that they believe could have belonged to an ancient civilization, like the Bimini Road. Have you ever heard of the Bimini Road?
I believe I have. It's those really big road-like stone blocks that have like rocks and stuff underneath them, as if they were made or placed on top of whatever the seafloor is there, right?
Yes. And they're found offshore under the water.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of strange structures found around the Bermuda, Bahamas area underneath the water. I can show some to you.
Is that real? There's no shot that that's fucking real.
These are real. These are the pyramids they found I told you about.
Pyramids under the waters of Cuba were discovered by Paul
Winswig and Pauline Zalitsky. That is real.
That is crazy.
So I don't think it's Atlantis, but I do think there is something like an ancient civilization that did once thrive there.
I mean, we have the Mayan pyramids. Those are in the area. I'm sure there's more around South America that we've known that I just don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, there's a lot.
But those are...
I don't know what that
definitely
is.
Look like pyramids and under the water.
Yeah.
Those are real?
Those are real.
I hope we do an episode on pyramids, because there's a lot of them everywhere. They're in China, they're in South America, they're under the fucking water.
I have 3 years of cases lined up. You don't think I put pyramids in there? So yeah, no, that is actually real. They do find structures under there, but I don't think it's Atlantis.
They found pyramids, but they couldn't find the boats.
Couldn't find the boats. That makes it weirder, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So now we get on to UFOs and aliens, buddy. The real shit.
About time.
The real shit. That's
Like
what
that.
I'm here for. So,
Boats sink, planes crash. Let's hear about aliens.
damn right. So, there has been lots of sightings of UFOs over the Bermuda Triangle. The locals talk about the strange lights over the Bermuda Triangle. Some people even talk about underwater alien bases in the Bermuda Triangle, because it is actually one of the deepest points in the ocean. Not as deep as the Marianas Trench, but it is very deep. But there has been several UFO sightings in the Bermuda Triangle. It is somewhat of a hot spot. The locals do talk about it. So do you think that UFOs could be a culprit in the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle?
I suppose they could be.
It's something.
Okay, hear me out.
I'm hearing you out.
Could the large presence of magnetite and therefore a abnormal magnetic field in the area be interacting with the atmosphere there and create the ball lightning phenomenon that we know so well in the sky?
Well, it could, but ball lightning's weird because there actually hasn't been any like video proof that it exists.
Apparently there is from 2014 from China.
Is there some now? Because there is some videos that have been faked of ball lightning, but even some of the people who say it could be ball lightning, lots of the witnesses say it didn't match the description of what ball lightning was. Also, just south of there, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, like those places are actually hotspots for UFOs as well. That whole like Caribbean, South American area are actually really prominent in UFOs and stuff like that. However, even I don't think that this is the culprit behind the Bermuda Triangle disappearances. I think it's our final theory of the day.
Aquatic Bigfoot.
No. Although that is interesting. Time vortex.
Of course. How did I not think of that yet?
Things go missing out of nowhere. We found pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle. We haven't found the boats. Things just go missing without anything. No distress call, no nothing. We have the report of Bruce Gernon coming forward that he went through a weird vortex and lost 45 minutes of time on a 90-minute flight. Electric fog? Are you fucking joking me?
Well, what do we know about time travel? We know that bear with me, people. We know it is possible to travel forward in time. The closer you approach the speed of light, it's less that you are going forward in time, it's that you are slowing down in time the faster you go to the speed of light. So when I don't even know how to explain it, man. You go forward in time, you can't go back in time is what I feel like we understand so far in physics.
I have heard that you can only go forward in time.
Yes.
But that also coincides, or my favorite word, corroborates with Gernon's story. He only went forward.
He did go forward by 45 minutes.
Who knows how far other people have gone forward?
Far enough forward that we haven't found them yet.
Mm-hmm. Or what if they just slipped through time? What if they went to a different dimension? Who knows what this is? We don't know. I think there's something weird going on with people just disappearing in the triangle. And it's not even just boats and planes. It's like people out of boats have gone missing. There were lighthouse attendants that went missing in Florida. Like just disappeared.
I mean,
it's not the first time lighthouse people have disappeared, but it was in the triangle.
One of my all-time favorite movies is The Lighthouse. People can probably go nuts in a lighthouse.
They can.
And disappear.
Maybe they
go wash
weren't,
out to sea.
Maybe they weren't fond of his lobster.
They don't have lighthouses in, I mean, they probably do, but you have a lighthouse that's probably in a stormy area.
Yes.
Florida's a stormy area.
It is a stormy area.
It's possible you get washed out to sea. The lighthouse thing doesn't sway me at all.
Anyway, thought I could pull you with something with that.
Incredible movie, though. I recommend it highly to everybody.
But anyway, that's all I've got on theories and at least some of the disappearances. Would you like to go to our conclusions here?
Sure, yeah. Let's have a final discussion and see what we think.
So, we have reports of strange phenomena going on in the triangle back to 1492 with Christopher Columbus. Many boats have gone missing without any evidence of their disappearance. Over 8,000 souls estimated to be lost in the triangle. Thousands of ships, hundreds of planes. The top two biggest losses of life in American naval history outside of combat were in the Triangle. Flight 19 got lost 2 hours out away from Fort Lauderdale in the Triangle. All 5 planes lost with no evidence of where they were or where they went. We had the Witchcraft that got lost a mile off the coast, watching the city of Miami. We've got Bruce Gernon's story of him going through a time portal, going ahead 45 minutes to Miami, not being spotted on radar until a little bit after he escaped this cloud, and not losing any fuel during that period of time. Up until about 2015, people still go missing, and I don't know if there's any still going on today, but I think we have more explanations for some of the ones that can be explained off. But strange disappearances do still happen in the Triangle. So James, out of all the theories and stuff that I've given you about the Bermuda Triangle, what piques your interest? What are you thinking about right now?
Honestly, I do really like the time travel one. I think it's fun.
Oh shit. Okay.
I think it's fun. Physically, I don't know how possible it is, but you're dealing with stuff that just disappears.
Yeah.
So theoreticizing is all you can really do.
Yep.
Obviously, the combination of semi-explainable things such as rogue waves, the magnetite, the methane gas deposits, all do make sense, as well as what could be maybe a large portion of these. Maybe all of them, maybe not all of them.
Yep.
It is like you said, Hurricane Alley. It is a very, very stormy place.
Yes. Yes, it is.
There are no shortage of things that it could be for any given scenario here.
Yeah.
You can't land on just one thing.
Yeah, no. And I think it's a strong combination of a lot of things. I think it's just a dangerous place.
The whole ghost ship thing is pretty nifty.
1,600 ghost ships in this area.
1,600 of them were ghost ships alone.
Where just the crew was gone. And they couldn't find any reason why they left. And they were never found.
You probably can't chalk all that up to seaweed.
Not all of it. I mean, like some of it's like recent. Like it's like in the last...
How fast would that seaweed have to rot? And
it would take some time.
And like that gas would have to stay with you. There'd have to be a lot of it. You're in the open air.
Yes.
It's probably breezy.
Yeah.
Here's a pretty obvious one that you haven't brought up yet.
Yeah.
Mermaids. Sirens.
I have not brought up mermaids. Because I don't know what I think of mermaids. And I largely believe mermaids to be manatees. Columbus did report mermaids in this area. He mentioned them a lot.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Mermaids is just kind of a given with sailors and the sea.
I don't I don't believe that it was mermaids. At least in this area, I don't think mermaids are the problem. However, I do think sea serpents could be something. Because there are a lot of reports of different sea monsters in this area. And
now we're getting ridiculous.
I got a video for you. I'm not joking.
Was this always going to come out, or is this just because I brought it up?
Just because you brought up mermaids. None of this was going to be a thing, but now I got to show you this video.
It kind of looks like it's coming towards us right now, but don't know. It's fine. It's fine. Just let it. Here, it's not going to fling on the boat. It's right here. It's right here. Holy mackerel! What the heck? Let it come up.
Oh, it's big.
What the fuck is that? Go! Go! I don't know what that is, Dave. Just hold on.
Pretty fucking serpentine to me.
You know, that did look pretty serpentine.
And big.
Very large. That lady was genuinely sounded scared.
Another thing is, this isn't the only time a sea serpent's been reported in Florida. And there's actually a report of... Okay, we're getting weird now.
We're getting so weird with this.
Have you heard of the Pensacola sea serpent? 4 boys went off the coast of Pensacola, Florida. They went to a shipwreck. As they went out there, it got stormy. And they got stuck on the shipwreck. But then they reported they saw something in the water. And then they reported a massive sea serpent. They flipped out and began swimming, trying to get to shore, trying to get to a raft or something. And the sea serpent began eating all of the boys on the trip. They reported seeing its head come out in the lightning strike as it came down on top of one of their friends. And out of this entire group, there was only one survivor who said this whole story, drew the picture of the serpent and everything. To this day, they don't know what happened here, but there were 3 dead boys. And one of the bodies were found, and it was mangled as if it was attacked by something. So reports of sea serpents in Florida are not uncommon. And some of actually the scariest ones, as you can see from that cool video. So sea serpents could be another thing. And another interesting thing is, did you know we don't know how eels mate?
That does kind of ring a bell. I think I may have heard that.
In eel species, we have not been able to find their sexual organs. We can't tell which one's male or female. And once every year, all the eels congregate in the Bermuda Triangle. Not joking. This is true. They migrate to the Bermuda area. And we don't know why. And then they come back with more eels. And we don't, that's not, I know it sounds weird, but that's true. We don't know what they do there.
Hold on, I'm looking this up. Eels in Europe and America are born in the Sargasso Sea, which is located in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
They migrate thousands of kilometers over land and sea to get to the Sargasso Sea to spawn. Male eels release sperm into the water, and female eels are drawn towards it for successful reproduction.
Yes, but the weird part is we haven't found sexual organs in them. So I don't know if maybe they develop on the way. Maybe it's like they develop, then it's time to go. But it's weird that they all did go to the Sargasso Sea where the Bermuda Triangle is. Just another weird thing about eels. Also, it ties to serpents a bit. Anyway, I'm off track.
Yeah, I would.
Anyway, so it is weird. Long story short, the triangle is weird. I need to do an episode on eels. Eels have come up a lot. The triangle is strange, to say the least. And a lot of weird shit happens there. You seem to be kind of like, there is something weird here, from what I'm reading here.
There's pyramids, there's eels.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff.
I don't know where to start debating with you on. I don't know what else.
I don't know either, honestly.
Because you seem like you're kind of as curious about this as I am, which is rare.
Well, we're from our end, we're just over 2 hours in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have more questions than ever.
I think there's more questions than answers.
I think we could talk about this for a whole day and still have stuff to talk about.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think we should just get on with it.
Get out of here. Okay, James. Well, on our scale from 1 to 5, 1 being I'm an idiot, 2 being you're skeptical, 3 being on the fence, 4 being there's something mysterious there, but you don't know if it's fully paranormal, 5 being you believe that it's something paranormal. Where do we land on today?
You know, honestly, I think I'm somewhere in between, like a, don't get too excited.
Oh god, if you say 2, I'm gonna lose my shit.
No. I just know you're gonna jump for joy when I say I'm between probably a 3.5 and a 4.
A 3.5 and a 4? Holy shit, James! I didn't know that!
Well,
hey, you know what? Let's go back to this. 3 is on the fence. 4 is you don't believe something is paranormal, but you think something strange is going on. So that would be a 4.
I mean, I think a 3.5 is a fair one, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of it could be somewhat explained, but there's a hell of a lot that can't be either. So I don't know. I'm going to say a 3.5.
3.5, final answer?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to, like it or hate it, I'm going to give you a 3.5 to a 4. I'm not going to give you a solid number, because I can't land on a solid number. There's just way too much going on.
You know what? 3.5 to a 4? I could say it bounces back between those numbers. I think that's a good...
You've reignited the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle for me. I've not thought about that in a very long time.
Like 20 years?
I do think it's weird there's been nothing in the last 10 years.
Yeah. At least as far as I can tell. But there might be some that I haven't attributed to it yet.
But boy, can I not wait for the pyramid episode.
Well, holy shit. I gotta be completely honest here. I thought I would be lucky to get above 1. I thought you would have thought I was ridiculous with what I was showing you.
Well, I assume you're not lying to me, and the stuff you tell me is real.
I'm showing you.
I'm coming into this with good faith.
I take a lot of pride in cutting out the bullshit and giving you the honest story to prove something to you. And if I get something wrong, if anyone's out there and they hear me get something wrong, please let me know, at least politely. because I do want to get the story straight. And there's a lot of liars on the internet, and it's hard to find the truth sometimes. You got to really dig for it. This is why I took a lot of the stories out, because there's a lot of stories that are, I think, attributed to weather and navigational errors, human error, everything like that. But there are some mysterious ones, like Flight 19 and the USS Cyclops, which I find interesting. And the witchcraft, I think the witchcraft is one that we should talk about more. That one is terrifying. How did you not find a boat a mile offshore? For me, it's a 4. I think there's something mysterious there. I don't know if it's fully paranormal. I just think there's a lot of interesting stuff there that lead to this.
There are a lot of factors at play here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most interesting things about it.
Why do we keep sailing through it?
It's one of the most heavily trafficked areas in the world for like planes and ships. That's the weird thing. And everyone always points at that, and it's like, why isn't insurance companies charging too much money to get through there? Or, why is it not as dangerous as everywhere else? And it's like, well, yeah, but there isn't the per capita this amount of disappearances. That's the weird part. Holy shit, James! I'm fucking stoked. Good on you. I'm glad I could get you above a 3 on this one. I'm happy with that.
I'm full of surprises.
You are. Thank you for listening, everybody. I can't believe I got James over the fence this week. I am fucking stoked on that. If you like what we're doing, leave a 5-star review on Spotify. I hate saying that. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook for updates and our case photos. We also have a YouTube channel that we post all the podcasts to, in case you don't have Spotify. Also, we just got an email, darkdocentpod@gmail.com. And if you have anything you want to let us know, if we get something wrong, if we missed something, if you have any recommendations for episodes, email us away. We'd love to hear from you. Well, with that, James, any words to the wise?
Batten down the hatches. The bauxite mermaids are coming.
Couldn't say it better myself. Fuck. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.